I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my series on functions, which is a prerequisite for calculus. Here we'll discuss application and thinking questions based on rational functions. We have 6 questions here from previous test papers. I hope their solutions will help you. But first, let's look into them. You can see the first two. Here is the third, which is a communication question. You can always pause the video, copy these questions, solve, and then look into my suggestions. Question number 4, 5, and 6. Let's now begin with their solution one by one. Question number 1 is, Peter's final mark in an online course was determined entirely by 2 exams. The midterm exam was out of X marks and was worth 25% of his final mark. The final exam was out of 2X and was worth 75% of his final mark. Peter scored 40 marks in the first mark exam and 60 marks in the second exam. Determine the value of X if Peter earned an overall final mark of 50% in the course. So let's write down the equation. He earned 40 out of X in the first exam, and the weightage for this was 25%. So times 25 out of 100. Plus second exam, which is the final exam. He earned 60 out of 2X. Weightage for this is 75%. That means 75 over 100. Overall, his mark was 50%. That means 50 out of 100. So it's kind of important to write this equation correctly. Once that is done, it is much simpler, right? So you can actually simplify this by cancelling these hundreds in the denominator, multiplying everything by 100. You will also divide everything by 10, so you can get rid of these 10s also, right? Now, we'll take common denominator of 2x, x and 2x, x and 2x, common denominator is 2x. So we need to multiply this by 2. 4 times 25 is 100 times 2 is 200. So we get 200 plus, we'll write this term as such, 6 times 75. 6 times, we could have simplified this also, right? 6 times 5 is 30, 0, 3. 6 times 7 is 42, and 3, 45. Equals to 5, right? We could have simplified this further before doing this work. Okay, now we can just cross multiply. So we get 650 equals to 5 times 2x. And from here we can find the value of x, which is, we can divide this by 2 times 5, which is 10, right? So we get from here 650 divided by 10 is equal to x, correct? So these are the steps which can help you find the solution. And straight away we get our answer as 65. So the value of x is 65. So the first test was from 65 and the second twice 65. Now let's take up the second question, which is, find the value of k that would make the given expression true. 3 over x minus 5 minus k over x plus 2 equals to 46 minus 5x over x minus 5 times x plus 2. So let me rewrite this. We have 3 over x minus 5 minus k over x plus 2 equals to 46 minus 5x over x minus 5 times x plus 2. Now this is a relatively simple question, but there could be a more complicated question on this concept. Now let's cross multiply the left side, so we get a common denominator of x minus 5 times x plus 2. You'll multiply 3 by x plus 2 minus k times x minus 5. And here we have 46 minus 5x over x minus 5 times x plus 2. Now, since these denominators are same, we can cancel them and equate the numerators. So let us expand it. So we have 3x plus 6 minus kx plus 5k equals to 46 minus 5x. So as far as the x terms are concerned, we have 3 minus k. And the numbers, we have plus 6 plus 5k, correct? On this, 46 minus 5x. From here, we see that we could have two equations. The coefficients of x can be equated. So we have 3 minus k should be equal to minus 5. And here the constants can be equated. So we have 6 plus 5k equals to 46. Correct? So that will give us possible values of k. Bringing k to the right side, we get 3 plus 5 equals to k. And that gives you 8 as the value of k. On this side, if I take 6 on this side, we get 5k equals to 46 minus 6, which is 40. So k is 40 over 5, which is also 8. Do you see that? So we have a value of k, which is 8. So our answer here is k equals to 8, right? So that is how we could actually solve such an example. So a good part here is to see how at the end we can actually solve for k by equating the constant terms and the coefficients of x. This is a great technique. Let's move on and take question number 3. Sam claims that if x equals to y, he can prove that x plus y equals to 0 by the following steps. Since x equals to y, that is the proof provided by Sam, we can square them. X squared plus x squared equals to y squared. Okay, that is fine. And then we have x squared minus y squared equals to 0, bringing it to the left side. And then we have divided both sides by x minus y. And then this x minus y cancel. 0 divided by anything is 0. So you get x plus y equals to 0. That is what is explanation of Sam. Now, how do you say that this is correct or false? Right, so, okay. So let's begin with the very first statement, which is x equals to y. Now, if x equals to y, that means if both are negative or both are positive. In that case, we can always square, right? So this step is okay. Now, this is also correct step. You could always bring it on the left side. Well, that's fine. But here, we have a problem. And here the problem is that you cannot divide zero by anything and then prove the concept, right? I could have divided this by x plus y and proved that x minus y is 0, which is definitely true, right? So this, you cannot divide 0 by any other number to prove. Well, that is one thing. Second thing, which is more critical here, is this. Now, Since x minus y is equal to 0, right? That we know actually. X equals to y. Since x minus y is equal to 0, you cannot divide by 0 on both sides, right? Division by 0 is indeterminate. You don't know what it is, right? It's not permitted. So basically, the reason which we'll give here is our explanation will be division by 0 is not defined, right? X is equal to y implies that x minus y equals to 0. Therefore, we cannot divide by x minus y on both sides. Correct? So that is the explanation. Now, let's get back to this question once again and try to understand. Now, let's give an alternate proof from here. When we say that x square minus y square equals to 0, we could say that factoring, we could say x plus y times x minus y equals to 0. Correct? Which has been done here, right? Which has been done here, it has been factored. Now, one of them could be 0 or both could be 0. That is possible. Now here, we know x minus y equals to 0. Therefore, it is true. Correct? This may not be 0. X plus y may or may not be 0. Is that clear? Right. But you cannot divide by 0. This is kind of very important. Division by 0 is not defined. X minus y is 0, right? X minus y is 0. You cannot divide by 0 on both the sides. That is very important, correct? Let's take up the next example now, which is determine area of a triangle in simplified form with the base and height given. Okay, so area is equals to half of base times height. So in our case, it will be half of base and height is given, right? So we'll use one of them as base. So which is 4x square over x square minus 16x plus 63 times 5x minus 3 over x plus 3. Okay? So we can write this as half of, let's factor, we have 4x square, denominator can be factored. We are looking for a product of 63, sum of minus 16, 9 times 7, right? 9 times 7 gives us 63, but that is when both are negative, then we get positive 63 as the product. So we get x minus 9 times x minus 7. On this side, 5x minus 3, okay, that cannot be factored. And here we have x plus 3. So that is the area of the triangle. So you just multiply these terms to get the area. Now in this particular case, we will just expand and then see if it can be simplified enough to So nothing much can be done here. You can just divide 4 by 2, and you could write this as x squared 5x minus 3 over x minus 9 times x minus 7 times x plus 3, correct? So that is the expression which can be used in this particular case. Let's move on and take the next question. An object has volume V equals to 3x over 2x minus 2 and density D equals to x minus 1 over 2x squared. Determine an expression for its mass where D is mass over volume. State restrictions on any variable. So what we are given here is volume equals to 3x over 2x minus 2. Density D, let me write here itself, x minus 1 over 2x squared. And we know density is mass over volume. Determine an expression for mass. So if I want what mass is, we'll cross multiply. So mass is equals to density times volume. Okay? So that becomes our relation. So we are going to multiply these two to find the mass. So mass will be volume into density. So we have, we can write density first, doesn't matter, x minus 1 over 2x squared times 3x over 2x minus 2, right? So we have x minus 1. 3x we could simplify, we could get rid of 1x here. So we get this times 3 over 2 is already here. Let's simplify this. We have 2 common here, so we get x minus 1. So now we can cancel x minus 1 also. There was 2x here, right? So once you do that, you get this as 3 over 4x, right? So that becomes the mass in this particular case. Now as far as restrictions are concerned, let's concentrate on restrictions now. The variable is x, and of course, as you've seen here, x cannot be 0. However, volume and density, they both cannot be 0 also in the given situation, and therefore the volume we cannot have x equals to 1, right? So x cannot be 1 also. Since if I substitute 1 here, we have a factor, right? X minus 1. So that cannot be 0. Therefore, there are 2 restrictions to this, which is x is not equal to 0 and x is not equal to 1. Now, more than that, what we also have here is that when you look into this expression, x has to be positive, right? So as far as density is concerned, denominator is always positive. So x value has to be more than 1. Otherwise, this value here will be negative. Correct? So x value has to be more than 1. So we have x which is greater than 1. Now if you look into this set of restrictions, then you can surely say that the net result is that x is greater than 1 where x belongs to real numbers, correct? So that becomes your final answer. Since your density, as you can see here, will be negative. If I have a value of x which is less than 1 and greater than 0, right? So, or less than 1, right? If this is negative, the density is going to be negative. So in our case, the restriction is that x is greater than 1. So that is our final restriction, right? So that becomes our answer. Is that clear? So this is very kind of important to understand this concept. And we are almost at the end. Here is the last question, question number 6. The perimeter of a triangle is 3x squared plus 11x minus 34 divided by x plus 6 times x minus 2. Determine the length of the third side if the two sides are x minus 5 over x minus 2 and x plus 1 over x minus 2. So perimeter is sum of three sides. So let the third side be, let's say, r. So we could write this as the perimeter 3x squared plus 11x minus 34 over x plus 6 times x minus 2. That should be equal to sum of these two, which is x minus 5 over x minus 2 plus x plus 1 over x minus 2 plus the third side. Let the third side be r, right? So basically we need to find the third side. Now here are a couple of things. We can actually simplify this. So let's factor 3x squared plus 11x minus 34. So 34, we are looking for sum and product of 3 times 34, right? So we're looking for something which will give us 3 times 34. Now 34 is 2 times 7, 17, right? So that gives you an idea. So the numbers could be 17 and 6, correct? So that is how we'll factor this. So we could write this as 3x squared plus 17x minus 6x minus 34, correct? Now you can factor x here. So you get 3x plus 17 minus 2. We get 3x plus 17. So that gives you 3x plus 17 as one factor and x minus 2 as the other factor. So that is one we can do for 3x squared plus 11x minus 34. So I'm writing this as 3x plus 17 times x minus 2, right? And here we have a denominator which is x plus 6 times x minus 2. Now here we can take x minus 2 common for these two terms, and we are left with 2x minus 4 plus r. 2x minus 4 is also x minus 2 times 2, right? Right. So yes, so we could simplify it further. So we have we can cancel these terms, x minus 2 and x minus 2 on the right side. So what we get here is 3x plus 17 over x plus 6, and on the right side we have 2 common. X minus 2 is a factor here over x minus 2. So this x minus 2 and x minus 2 also cancel, plus r. So now we are left with 2 here. So we have 3x plus 17 over x plus 6 minus 2 as the value of r, correct? Okay, so we can take a common denominator. So that gives us x plus 6 as a common denominator. So we have 3x plus 17 minus 2 times x plus 6, the value of r, correct? So let's solve for r on the right side. So basically we have r equals to 3x plus 17 minus, let's open this bracket, so minus 2x minus 12 over x plus 6. So that is 3x minus 2x is x, and 17 minus 12 is 5, x plus 6, right? So therefore third side is x plus 5 over x plus 6. Is that clear to you? So that is how we can actually solve this question. It's kind of important to see how simplifying at each stage helps us to get the answer quickly. Otherwise, this could have been a very complicated question. So I'd like you to actually try it out yourself, and then I hope you appreciate the set of solutions which have been provided here. Feel free to write your comments, share your views, and if you like and subscribe to my videos, that'd be great. Thanks for your time and all the best.